Hello everyone, this is Benjamin T. Collier, having a look at MultiVersus, because some things happened. I'd been gone for a while. I haven't picked up this game in like several months. Don't know the exact timeline, but like the beginning of Season 2, some content was added to the game that I wasn't personally comfortable with, and I just stopped playing. And hadn't really been keeping track of how the game's been doing since then. But I got this news. In case you haven't heard, the game is shutting down. End of May, if I'm looking at the numbers correctly. This 5th season is the final season, and then the servers will be shutting down. The game will not be accessible anymore. And I liked the game enough, here and there, that I wanted to make sure that I had a copy of it downloaded onto my system before it became non-downloadable. Because they have said that it's going to be accessible offline after May. So I thought, well, I'll jump back into it. I'll do just the stuff that I actually want to do. I won't do any PvP stuff or things that I, don't have control over. Stick to just the parts of the game that I like. And see what I can do with that, because there are good things in this game that I would like to still have access to. It's just unfortunately been overshadowed by, I guess, just the monetization model. I mean, there's lots of videos on why this is happening, from people more insightful about the game industry in general than I myself. I don't have the broad perspective view on everything that was going on, but from ground level, what I can say, this game had a lot of good stuff in it. It just was done in a way that made it not fun. And weirdly, when I left, honestly, it was a relief. Because the grinding on this game was a big part of what made it not fun. It was probably the primary thing. I know the game is also very glitchy, but like the same kind of glitches could have occurred in any number of games and they would have been more forgivable, except for that I think I mentioned in the last video I did on this. There were daily challenges that required you to complete missions a certain way, and they were not actually physically possible. Like one of them was knock someone out at the bottom blast zone on a stage that did not have a bottom blast zone. Stuff like that would come up. But you would be required to do that. You would be required to do the literally impossible in order to get certain rewards. There was a lot of QA issues. Like, I was convinced at that point that this game had no quality assurance. And then I heard recently that it's actually quite a small dev team that put this together, which would make sense. They probably legitimately do not even have a quality assurance team. But not just the frustration of particular missions, but just the amount of grinding that this game required in order to get certain things done within the allotted time. To be able to get access to certain characters or cosmetics and things like that. It was a major time vacuum. And when I came across content that I knew I wouldn't be able to avoid and still keep up with the Battle Pass, and so I decided to just leave, it was honestly a relief. The fact that I would not be trying to keep up with the Battle Passes anymore was a relief to me. And now that I'm checking this game out again to see what I can do before it goes offline forever, my suspicion is that while doing this, I will come to hate the game again. That is most likely what will happen. And then once it goes offline, as long as they keep their word and the game remains playable offline, just with no more, at least time-based grinding to do, this game might at that point turn into the experience that I feel like it was always meant to be, which is something that I can think about from time to time and be like, yeah, I feel like playing as Taz right now, or I feel like playing as a gremlin right now. And go back to this game and just play it at my leisure, and then enjoy my time with it. Instead of 100% of my time with this game being grinding, and having to do certain things, playing as certain characters, doing certain stages, and whatnot, and then not having the time left over for the things that I actually want to do. Because from the looks of it, the grinding has in fact gotten even worse than it was before. Like, these rogue rifts. You can do 5 a day, and you have to in order to do certain things. And that alone, at least for me, 5 runs of 5 matches each, that takes about an hour. And that's not including the other daily challenges that you also only have 1 day to try and do. So it looks like the grinding has gotten even worse. And I'm clearly not the only person who's felt this way. That the game is just way too grindy. I know I've heard other people complaining about it. And I wonder, not to take away from the fact that the way the grind is set up in this game is actually ridiculously unreasonable in comparison to other games. The only one I can personally compare it to is Street Fighter 6. And the fight passes there. I actually enjoy the grind on those because they don't take too much time. Like, knowing the fastest way to grind kudos, I can get like a tier worth of progression in like 15 to 20 minutes. And there's 20 tiers to do, 30 if I want to make the money back, and around 20 days in which to do it. That's not asking a lot. But the battle pass on MultiVersus, the fact that it's 70 levels, the fact that it's 3 months worth, and I'm finding that it takes about an hour or more for me to get a tier worth of progression. Admittedly, not doing everything I can, but that still feels like a lot. I wonder if part of the problem for why people have been turning away from this game en masse is because the grind or pay now option, as far as how to unlock something in a video game. If you're given the choice between like a very long, hard grind to get something, or just spending some extra money to get it right away, I think that used to work more than it does now. I don't think that model fits too well with the fact that we're in a recession. Because it makes sense, normally. Normally this kind of model works, because most of us recognize that our time is more valuable than our money. And so if we're given the option of spending a lot of time grinding, not even playing the game in a way that is actually fun, in order to unlock something, as opposed to, you know, just throwing a couple more dollars at it to get something right away, a large enough percentage of gamers are willing to just give the extra money. Usually. But the thing about a recession is it flips those around. A lot of us are unemployed. We have way more time than we used to, but what we don't have is money. And standard recession mentality is, if you're given the option of doing hard work but saving some money in the process, then that's what you do. And so the grind that has been designed for games like MultiVersus, that are designed to be painful, designed to make you not want to take this route, designed to make you want to just spend the money and not have to do the grind, it's not working like it used to, because we have to save our money. If we're given the option, and we can get the same thing from just putting in more work, then that's what we'll do. Not all of us, I know, just like those of us for who like the recession has sunk in as reality. I think you'll find that a lot less gamers are willing to spend extra money when they can just do extra work right now. And so when you're giving them the option of these two things, they're going for the hard work. But because the hard work on this game was made so painful, like arbitrarily grindy, to the point that it's supposed to not even be a question. Of course you want to just spend the money, just to not have to deal with the grinding. But we're not doing that. We're putting ourselves through the awkward, painful grinding more than we would normally be willing to, and that's causing our overall opinions of the game to be more negative. Because we're forcing ourselves to go through it the hard way. But I think it's because the option is there. So if games who needs to make their money through cosmetics, like free-to-play games, if they took away the option of grinding for certain things and made them only available through purchases, then the people who really want those things, if there's no other way to get it, they'll save the money to do that. It'll take them time. They'll have to save up the money if they're struggling in the recession. But they'll do that. And then they won't have to spend hours at a time not having fun on a game and then developing an overall negative opinion of it. That might be what games like this have to do, for a bit at least. Just in keeping in mind the time that the world is going through at the moment. The grind or pay now model works sometimes, it just doesn't seem to be working right now. And a lot of players, if they're like me, they don't have the money to buy everything they want all at once. They'll have a weekly or monthly allotment of, this is how much I'm willing to spend per week or per month on just cosmetics for stuff. I have that, it's called a crowd fund. It's like throwaway money. It's like, here's how much money I can lose in a month and not feel bad about it. That's what I'll spend on cosmetics. But a thing that happened, because this announcement that the game would be shutting down, it happened at the same time as Gleamium became no longer available in the store. At least not through through purchase using actual money. It looks like you can buy some with a golden ticket, but I don't think I have any of those. I think those were some kind of Founders Pack premium thingy that I never got. And also, I wonder how much those Founders Packs are worth now. Yeah, it wasn't that I didn't want to support the game back in the beginning. Like, I actually did spend a lot of money on cosmetics when the game was in beta. But as far as, like, specifically putting in, like, going the extra mile and getting a Founders Pack, that seemed like not something I really wanted to do. But yeah, the announcement that all this was happening, this happened the same time as you stopped being able to buy Gleamium. Which meant that if you were saving up money to buy Gleamium for any particular costumes, you can't do that anymore. The only Gleamium you can spend is what you already have, and what you can still earn through the Battle Pass and the other certain challenges. I guess getting a character up to level 15, which takes quite a bit of time. I'm concerned about the possibility that buying costumes may no longer be a thing, like, at all in the future, because I'm not aware of a way of earning Gleamium in the game that is, like, infinite and self-contained. Like, I don't know if the daily missions or weekly missions are a thing that's going to continue after the game goes offline, or if those are dependent on those servers. I don't know the tech behind that. I don't know if that is like a self-contained thing in the game, or if they need information coming in from other sources. And then these rifts, like, you can get some rewards for completing rifts and daily rift challenges. I am not aware of anything that's like an infinite supply of Gleamium. And if something isn't added before the final update and the game actually goes offline, like, I'm just wondering if cosmetics are going to switch from being purchasable through Gleamium to purchasable through some other form of currency that is ongoing, or if it's gonna stay Gleamium and there's just going to be a finite amount of stuff we can buy after that point, and the rest of the costumes are just forever inaccessible. If certain things could get converted into others, that would be nice. Like, I don't know about y'all, I feel like there's only so much perk currency that I could ever possibly need for any reason, and I already have several times more than that, and I keep getting more. Like, this is the one currency that the game just will not stop spraying me with, and yet I have almost no use for it. I have certain specific perks I want to use, and that's it. I don't need to buy every perk for every character. And even if I did, I'm sure that I have more than enough. So if cosmetics could switch to being purchasable through perk currency, or if perk currency could be converted into Gleamium or something, I'd be happy with either of those. Now there is something they're doing that needs to be pointed out, because this is actually a good thing, and actually more developers need to do this. Because I've already suffered through this once with Battleborn, when the servers for Battleborn shut down, and that game became completely unplayable in any way, shape, or form. Because it was a mainly online game, and they wanted you to have to log onto the server before you could access anything, even the offline content. I think as a precaution to be able to monitor you just to make sure that you're not cheating, which is fair, for something that is meant to be a multiplayer online, very competitive gaming scene. It makes sense to have to do that. I understand that. They want to make sure you're not playing about with the coding of the game in any way that's going to enable you to cheat. But when the developers know that the servers are shutting down, once you can't compete online anymore, that doesn't matter. Like, I want to be able to continue enjoying the game, even if it's only the offline content. If I loved the game enough, and I did. I loved Battleborn. I was sad to see it go. And all I ever did on the game was offline stuff. But I couldn't access that. MultiVersus is doing something here that I have not heard of anybody else doing before. The only ending I ever hear to these stories is how the games that require server access before even doing offline stuff, those games just become completely unplayable. And it's sad and upsetting, and that's the only ending that I ever hear to those stories. MultiVersus is doing something different here in that when those servers are about to shut down, they are putting out a final update that makes the game accessible offline, so that you can access the offline content without having to log into the server. And they need to be commended for that. We need to give them kudos for that. Because this is how it should be when a multiplayer game closes down its servers. We should be able to access the offline stuff. MultiVersus is doing that. This needs to become the norm instead of the exception, and I applaud them for taking that step. Assuming they actually follow through on their promise to do that. If they don't, of course, I'll be upset. But they're saying they're gonna do this. Hopefully they follow through. Kudos. We need to see more developers do that. So, this is going to be a long enough video as is without me checking out the 2 characters that were just added, so I'll do that in another video. And although I just got them, I don't think I'll do videos on all the characters that have come out since Season 2, just because, like, they've been out for a while. And I made the personal decision of not covering the game at that point. But Aquaman and Lola are fairly fresh, so I do a video on those 2. Now, somehow, and I don't know if this was just an amazing coincidence or something pre-programmed in the game or some kind of divine providence. I just happens to have enough, like exactly, down to the single digits, exactly enough fighter currency to unlock all 6 of the remaining characters, without having to go through a fighter road. Yeah, I heard that fighter currency got replaced with fighter road XP, and I didn't hear anything about it being converted into anything. So I thought it was just gone. But then I was looking at someone and I looked at the purchase options and fighter currency showed up as a purchase option. And yeah, when certain content was added to the game, I just left. Because so much of grinding for the battle pass is fighting other players. And when certain things show up at random, which they do, I don't have the option of just canceling out, because that affects the rest of the players. No, you can get yourself banned for doing that. So I knew I wouldn't be able to keep up with the battle passes. I'm probably not going to be able to keep up with this current one, because there's certain things I'm still just refusing to do. But I didn't complain about it, because I did look online, nobody else was talking about it, so I knew that it was just a me thing. And I'm well aware that I'm like a highly sensitive person when it comes to certain kinds of content that don't bother other people. That's a common experience for me. So I decided to just stop playing the game. So like, age-wise, I'm in between Generation X and Millennial. So I do have this one Millennial trait of like everything everywhere offends me. That's a condition that I have. I'm just like chronically upset by things. But the Gen X part of me is like self-aware about that fact. And one millennial trait that I don't have is expecting the world to accommodate my sensitivities. Because I'm well aware of the fact that some of my sensitivities are like not a lot of people would be put off by that stuff except for me. And so there's no point making a big fuss about it. If I don't like something, I just leave. You know, I have the option to do that. I don't like something that's been added to a particular game, I avoid that thing. If I can't avoid it, I stop playing the game. If I'm watching something I don't like, I stop watching that thing. You know, I have the power to do that. As do most people. Having come back after a while, I did take another look at what is possible to do in custom games. But as best as I can tell, there is still no way of having just an all-bots fight without having to play as one of the characters, which removes the point of having an all-bots fight. And that's still disappointing. Unless I'm just overlooking something, but like the option to highlight start match is not showing up. I can't do that while everyone is a bot. And that's disappointing. It was a feature that did exist in the beta at one point. Like, you can look on my channel, I have, I think, 3 different tournaments of CPU fights. They were fun. I enjoyed putting those together. I would love to put more together. But I can't. It's just not an option. And that's always disappointing with fighting games. Like, it's a very small amount of programming that needs to be done just to make computer fights an option. And yet, comparatively, very few fighting games do it. And yet it's so little work and it adds so much replay value. Like, speaking as a gamer who, like, when I get a new game, and I'm like, on purpose, setting time aside. Like, usually, if it's a new game, I'll usually set aside a day. I'll make it my day off to start playing the game and, like, play that game as much as I can or as much as I feel like. I'm looking for excuses to not have to turn off the game. To just leave the game on. Just stay in the world of the game. And watching the computer fight itself is one of the things I can do on certain fighting games. Like, it's a good thing to have. It means more time spent on the game. That looks good in your statistics. When you get the data for how long players are spending in certain games. If you give them something to watch for those, you know, inconvenient times where their body is telling them they have to stop and eat something. Give them something to watch while they have a meal. I love that when games do that. And it would have been so easy to put that in here. Again, this is a feature that was in the beta. They didn't bring it back for the full release. Why not? I could have gotten so much more out of this game with doing CPU tournaments. But no. Anyways, that's an old complaint. I think I commented on that in the first few second impressions videos I did. It's just something I hoped would have been resolved by now, because it, from looking at it, like just a quick look at it, it seemed like maybe that was an oversight that would be fixed eventually, but it hasn't been fixed yet, which means it likely never will be. Especially with this being the last season, that's not something they're gonna want to work on now. So, mixture, in the one sense, sad to see it go, considering the lost potential content. Like, there's so many things that were obvious, like, this game needs to have this. I don't know if anybody, as soon as we found out Cake was going to be a variant for Jake, I don't know if anybody was not 100% expecting a Fiona the Human variant for Finn. And we never got that. A number of character concepts were leaked that we never got. I don't even think we ever got word of the possibility of getting the Animaniacs. And that will be forever an elephant in the room sized black spot on this game. That it's a fighting game about Warner Brothers properties, and it does not have the Warner Brothers. It has the water tower. It has their stage, but it does not have the Warner Brothers. Or their sister Dot. That makes no conceptual sense. And we've got this lady. I googled her. She doesn't exist. Apart from this game. It's telling me DC. I think that's just the story that they came up with for her. To the best I can figure, she's an original character made for this game. I seriously thought she was just from the same place as Rain Dog, wherever it is he's from. So he's not from a Warner Brothers property, he's just a player-first original character. And my guess, looking at the rest of the roster, my guess is that the reason is because there was no female black representation. In which case, like, it's good for them to take the initiative on that and, you know, make sure that they have a character to fulfill that role. But that raises the follow-up question of, they had to make a new character of all the properties owned by Warner Brothers. There is not a single black female character anywhere who's popular enough to be put into this game, as opposed to just making a new character from scratch. Everyone they can think of has like a negative popularity rating. Like Niobe from The Matrix. Are you telling me she has negative popularity? Is it because she's played by Jada Pinkett Smith? There wasn't there a version of Catwoman that was black? Oh, that was Halle Berry. That was like the worst Catwoman. Okay. And yeah, now that I'm forcing myself to think about it, I'm struggling to think of anybody. So yeah, maybe this legitimately had to happen. Weird. And I feel like there were more popular characters planned for the future. That's most likely the case. But you don't want to bring out all of your best characters all at once. You want to space them out a bit, have some more obscure characters in between. That makes sense, but with this being the final season, there's probably a lot of... like, it's too late to save the best for last now. Like, I don't think Aquaman was on anybody's most wanted. Lola, maybe. Part of the mixture of feelings is coming from the fact that this game, more than any other fighting game I can think of, this game melded with my brain when it came to deciding what character should be in. Because never would I have expected a fighting game to have Stripe, or Taz, or Lola Bunny, or Gizmo, or Beetlejuice, or Agent Smith. There are so many characters in this game that would not normally be put into a fighting game by any development team that is looking at what they believe the mainstream gamers want. These character selections were so obscure and specific to my brain in particular. And that always made me hopeful for the future, for what more content could potentially be added in the future. And the loss of that looking forward to-ness is somewhat sad. But I will endeavor to take what this game does have and enjoy what it has and what it does have to offer once the grinding is done. Until then, likely going to hate it again. So there's sadness knowing everything that this game could have been and the fact that it won't be that ever, but also switching to the offline format and knowing that there won't be time-limited daily grinds after certain points. This may, in time, settle into being the kind of experience that it always should have been, which is people playing it just for fun and not for grinding. It just circumstantially turned into a situation where all of my time with this game was spent grinding, so that by the time I had any free time, I was like, I'm sick of playing this game. You know, like I would play this game to grind, then once that was done, I would play different games for fun. And that's not what you want. Like, games with grinding systems, they need to figure out a way so that it's not feeling like work. You know, people don't play video games because they want to work. They play video games for fun. It should not feel like more work. And that is what a lot of these more grindy games end up feeling like. So developers needs to be careful about that. But when the grinding is done, and I'm just going to this game, just like putting on this game when I want to, because I feel like playing as a certain character, I think I'll enjoy it a lot more. For the next 3 months or so, I'm going to hate it again, because I'll be grinding. But after that, and after I've been away from it for a while after that, I think I'll start liking it again. And appreciating it for what it has, instead of both of us being drains trying to turn it into what it could be. So those are my thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all staying safe. And I'll see you later. Bye bye.